What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In this video, we're looking at two of the top prospects coming into the 2020 NFL Draft. Both of these players are defensive tackles, so we can definitely compare them. And that is Derrick Brown out of Auburn and Javon Kinlaw out of South Carolina. Let's get it started. We're going to be comparing the two defensive tackles coming into the 2020 NFL Draft. Now, if you guys remember back to last year, I did a few of these. I believe I did TJ Hockenson and Noah Fant. White versus Bush, I did a lot of players. So now this year, we are going to hop back on that, but we're going to hop a little bit earlier because I do like doing these. The only problem with these is that usually I like to do the same position. It's really hard to compare a guy like some of you suggested. There's nothing wrong with suggesting it. It's just really hard for me to compare a guy like Isaiah Simmons to Derrick Brown because one's a linebacker and the other one's a defensive tackle. So their roles are completely different. You know, they have different responsibilities, so it's really hard to compare one against each other and who we should take or who you should draft or who your favorite team should draft. So in this video and other comparisons, we're going to be looking at players that are at least at similar positions to make it fair. So that is right, Derrick Brown and Javon Kinlaw. Now, both of these guys look like really high prospects. Both of these guys are expected to go somewhere in the first round. Derrick Brown, in my eyes, is projected to go at least top 10. I really don't see him falling out of the top 10. And then Javon Kinlaw is really a weird one because I do believe he will go first round, but he could fall to like 20. He could fall to 20 potentially. I'm thinking top half is where he'll go, somewhere in the top 16 picks. So let's just get this thing started. All right, we're going to start off with Derrick Brown, then we'll slide over to Javon Kinlaw, and we'll hop back and forth. I will keep you guys in the know of who we're actually talking about. We're going to start off with Derrick Brown. Coming out of high school, Derrick Brown was a 5-star prospect, so he was great throughout his entire career so far. Coming out of high school, he was well known. Obviously, he went to a big school in Auburn, played in the SEC, played a lot of talented teams. So did Javon Kinlaw. But Derrick Brown, wearing the number 5, like I said, is projected to be a top 10 pick in this year's draft. Some people have it as top 5. I've seen him go as early as 3 to our Detroit Lions, which I think is actually a reasonable pick. Now, let's get this thing started, okay? So he was a 4-year player with the Auburn Tigers. He played there all 4 years. That's what I mean by that. And he was a fairly healthy player because in every year, he played pretty much every single game. In his first season, his freshman season, he only played in 8 games, but he was a freshman where he was able to total 11 tackles, 1 sack, and 1 tackle for loss. Not beautiful, but again, he was a freshman. So he was just kind of getting his feet wet, kind of getting used to the vibe going on in college. But then in his sophomore season, everything started to turn around. In 13 games played, 57 total tackles, 9.5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. So you can see the huge jump he took from freshman to sophomore year, and after that, he was ready to go. Then in his junior year, 13 more games, 48 total tackles, 10.5 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks, and another forced fumble. One thing that I really like about Derrick Brown, when you look at just his stats specifically, when you look at the production that he puts up, it's very consistent. He's a consistent player that's putting up consistent stats. It's not like he's declining or he's like this. He's consistently putting up the same numbers, which is really nice to see from Derrick Brown. Then in his final year, in 2019, he played in 12 games where he had 54 total tackles, 11.5 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. So you can see very consistent, very solid numbers from the defensive tackle position, and that's really nice to see out of Derrick Brown. Now, let's hop over to Javon Kinlaw, and Javon Kinlaw is a little bit different because actually he didn't spend all of his years with South Carolina. Instead, in his first year, he actually played at a junior college. He went to Jones County Junior College. Okay, I knew I'm missing something there. Jones County Junior College, and that's where he played before then transferring over to South Carolina back in 2017. So in 2017, his first year with South Carolina, he played in 7 games where he had 17 total tackles, 2 tackles for a loss, and 1 forced fumble. The numbers aren't crazy, but again, first year there, he's kind of getting into the field things just like Derrick Brown. But then after that, he really started to consistently get a lot better and improve those numbers. In 2018, playing in 10 games, he had 30 total tackles to go along with 9 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. Really good. I mean, the jump you're seeing from both of these guys once they got comfortable is great. So obviously you can see they adapted and they become really good players, which is good for the NFL because you want players that can adapt. And finally, then in 2019, his last season, he played in 12 games where he had 35 total tackles, 6 tackles for loss, and 6 sacks. 6 sacks out of the defensive tackle position is ridiculous. That is really good. That's something that pops out to me. Now over on Derrick Brown's side of things, 11.5 tackles for loss, 10.5 tackles for loss, 9.5 tackles for loss. Those are beautiful. So both these guys can not only stop the run and play your prototypical defensive tackle style, but they can also get a lot of pressure. So that is what's very interesting. Now we're going to hop back over to Derrick Brown, and we're going to be looking at a scouting report. So what I do here is I take a look at what scouts say about these players. I will do it for both players. Then I tell you what I saw from both these guys when I was able to watch full game film on them. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to start off with the scouting report, or what other people are saying about Derrick Brown. The scouting report looks like this, is that the first thing, he has great hand technique, which is super important as a defensive lineman. Hand technique is really everything going against an offensive lineman. Obviously, offensive linemen aren't supposed to hold, but it's really about hand technique. So it's super important that he's really good at that, and that's something that Derrick Brown has. Derrick Brown also has a crazy motor. Known by scouts, he has a crazy motor. He's always going all game. He's not like, later in the game, I kind of forgot Derrick Brown was out there. No, but he's still going all game long. He has a crazy motor, and that's really awesome to see. You really want that in any kind of player. Talent is awesome, skills is awesome, and to pair that with the ability to just keep going, keep fighting, keep playing, that's awesome. And a lot of NFL teams will look for that because the wear and tear there's a lot of wear and tear in the NFL. So you want guys that are full of energy. Next up is, they call him the black hole. Some people call him this. I guess not a lot of people. I don't know if that's an Auburn nickname or that's just what people call him. But the black hole is for his run stopping ability. He is a great run stopper. One of the best run stoppers maybe the best run stopper coming out of this draft. Considering the talent he went against and the fact that he is called the black hole should tell you everything you need to know. But seriously, when you watch him play, he basically is. Running near him just doesn't make a lot of sense when you run upfield, and he has the ability to not only to stop the running back, but not just by breaking off of the offensive lineman. Like, he can still be engaged with the offensive lineman and reach off and pull the running back down. I mean, he's the black hole. Yeah, so. Yeah. All right. Next up is his versatility, and that's something that's really nice. Versatility is key for Derrick Brown. And when I first thought about Derrick Brown, when I first hear about him, when I first watch him, I'm like, yeah, there's no way that dude has any versatility. That guy is a defensive tackle. Look at him. But then you learn a little bit more. You watch him film, and you're like, oh, snap, he's not. This dude can play on the end. Now, he's not an edge rusher, right? He's not a Josh Uche, but he can play on the end in a base style defense. So you can put him potentially at defensive end. Now, does he do that as often as defense tackle? No, but he can do it, and that is really awesome to see. And he's not bad at it. It's not like they just put him there because, there's injuries. No, he's actually good at it because they do mix that in purposely. Next up is the fact that he can pass rush. And a lot of times you'll see defensive tackles that are really good run stoppers, but they don't have that pass rush. Look at a lot of defensive tackles coming out of this draft. One guy that comes out to me is Raekwon Davis. He doesn't have a lot of sacks. He doesn't get a lot of pressure. He is a good run stopper. If you go to run stopper, that's your guy. But he's not going to mix that with pressure. He doesn't get a lot of that. Instead, Derrick Brown, he can get pressure as well as be a phenomenal run stopper. So that's what I think that's what makes him such a projected high draft pick, is because he can do both. He's giving you both. He's not just giving you one thing and not the other. He's giving you both, which is great. Not a lot of defensive linemen are going to do that. He's very explosive off the snap. And then one thing I saw pretty consistently when it came to scouting reports is his struggles after the backfield. Now, I actually saw this as well when I was watching the film, but I also can understand it. He's a defensive lineman, and after it gets past the backfield and past line of scrimmage, they say he struggles. Sometimes I've seen him kind of just give up on the play a little bit, but at the same time, I kind of understand it. I mean, you're a big dude, no disrespect, but he's a big dude. He's a defensive tackle. But he kind of, he'll just start watching the play when it's a little far away. I mean, it's not like he's going to catch him anyways, so it's not a big deal to me. But at the same time, I guess I can see where they're coming from. And at the same time, how is he going to be able to keep up with like a running back out there once it's past the line of scrimmage? Like, that ain't going to happen. So that's what the scouting report looks like for Derrick Brown. Now, instead of going back to Javon Kinlaw and making everything confusing, I'm going to look at my film first, and then we'll hop over to Javon Kinlaw, and we'll just cover that at once. So hopping into my film on Derrick Brown, what I saw when I was watching Derrick Brown. So some of these are similar, some may be a little bit different, but here's what I was able to take away. My first thing is this, the double team. He is double teamed so many times. I'm telling you, more times than not, he is being double teamed by the offensive line. And even if they bring 4 defensive linemen, he's still the guy that gets double teamed. Whether it's the center and the guard both taking him, maybe the tackle and the guard, he's double teamed all the time. I mean, it's just the offensive line is completely focused on making sure Derrick Brown is out of the play. A lot of times they go away from him. They try to do quick things to keep him out of the play. He's double teamed consistently, and that to me is really nice because he is taking a double team. If you have a guy that is taking on a double team always, you're usually going to have a lot of other guys that can get back there, right? Because you can't double team everybody, and that's really nice to see. With the Lions defensive line currently, Trey Flowers was double teamed a lot of the time because they didn't have an interior pass rusher. Derrick Brown getting double teamed and double teaming Trey Flowers, that's probably not going to work out. So with that being said, Derrick Brown fits really, really well and with a lot of teams because the ability to force a double team is huge. Next up I found is he can play end. Now this is one that I just mentioned before. The fact that he can play defensive end, I had to put on here because I was so shocked. I didn't think he could do it, but he can do it. And that's really crazy to me and also very impressive. He's extremely athletic. And what I mean by that is, well, what it means, he's athletic. He doesn't look that athletic, but he is. He's like that sleeper athlete, you know? He's like a sleeper car. You know, you're looking at it, yeah, that thing's slow. But then he starts running. It's like, dang, that dude is athletic. He's jumping, he's juking. There was one fumble recovery where he picked it up and he was just running. I was like, that dude ain't going to get caught. Well, he ended up tripping, so I guess maybe that's not super athletic. Maybe that's just a little clumsy, but, he's probably hyped a little bit. He tripped on his own foot, but you know what? That's cool. That's cool. He still showed a lot of athletic ability, just that play alone. Next up is his quickness. Now, his quickness sometimes doesn't turn into power. And what I mean by that is he's very quick off the snap, but sometimes he wasn't able to take that energy and put it into power. It's kind of loose with it. Like, he gets off the snap and he's kind of like, he's kind of weak with it. It's like, yeah, you're not going to get by him in that first move. Then it takes him a couple extra moves to try to get by. And obviously that takes a lot of time. So in the NFL, that's not always the best thing. So he's inconsistent with that. But at the same time, if he wasn't inconsistent, he would be the greatest defensive lineman of all time. Let me just say that. Next up is he's not consistently winning the leverage battle, which again is super important. When he does, he's very good, which a lot of players are, but he doesn't consistently do that. Sometimes he can be high, which is also something that we have to keep an eye out for. Yeah, but I'm not too worried about these because these are things that every defensive lineman goes through. No one is consistently perfect, so I'm not too mad about that one. Next up is that he plays on all three downs. Now this one is really impressive to me. You're looking at a guy here in Derrick Brown that's playing basically every single down, a lot of downs for Auburn. You may say, well, that's not good because his stats aren't that good. Well, his stats are really good, and two, playing every down means you're going to be tired, so you're building up a lot of stamina. I don't know. He keeps the same energy throughout. It doesn't seem like near the end of the game, you just kind of forget he's there. He's still going. And that's so impressive to me because he's playing a lot of the snaps, 3 downs. He doesn't come out for 3rd down or just only come in for 3rd downs to get pressure. That's not what he does. They always need him out there, and they use him all the time, and he's able to play through it. So that's what's really cool. He does run a few stunts. I saw him run a few stunts, from the inside. He would work his way to the outside. There's a couple things he mixed in there. He does have a long arm reach, which I thought was interesting. His ability, like I said before, when he's engaged on an offensive lineman to reach out and kind of just grab the running back and pull him back and pull him down is awesome. Okay, that's just awesome because there's not a lot of times where you're just going to be completely free. So he's able to get off of that and reach out and bring down a running back or the ball carrier, whoever it may be. His arm reach really shows off right there. Now, let's hop over to Javon Kinlaw. We'll talk about what he does, and then we will get into comparisons, and then we'll finish this thing off with my conclusion. So next up is Javon Kinlaw. Now let's look at his scouting report from what I've seen from other people. The first thing is that he has extreme explosiveness. Like, he explodes a lot, like a rocket. He just looks like a rocket when he explodes off of the line. Now, when he is low, when he gets that low leverage, he is incredibly powerful. That explosion, he gets low leverage, and he will literally just toss the dude over. He just toss the offensive line, just run him over. It's like, wow, he just ran that guy over. Go watch his highlights. I'm not just looking at his highlights. I watched the whole film. He just runs guys over. It is crazy when he gets low leverage. The problem is he's inconsistent with that. Sometimes he doesn't get that low leverage, just like Derrick Brown, and he's just kind of stuck there, and he's just kind of fight with him, and it's like, okay, yeah, nothing's happening. So that's something to keep an eye on for sure. Now, his upper body strength is something that is a huge, maybe his biggest strength heading into the draft is his upper body strength. He's very strong. So even when he gets in those matches where he's kind of like this, he can throw you away, he'll throw you off and stuff like that. And that's why his bull rush is so effective, because he can run right directly at you and just run you over with his upper body strength. He's a strong dude. So that's really awesome to see. He's one of the strongest defensive linemen I've seen in this entire draft. Now, the energy is something I would keep an eye on. I feel like near the end of the game, sometimes he kind of gets tired. You could tell he's tired and he gets kind of wore out and he's not as effective. So that's definitely important. But I think as he continues to play, that'll grow. He's a young player. You grow that as you play more. You know what I mean? So that'll happen. He'll be fine in that case. But it is something to keep an eye on, because if you are going to draft him be a 3-down lineman, near the end game, he may slow down a little bit. But again, I think he will grow that pretty fast, especially through the offseason. Once he gets drafted, he's going to be on it. Tunnel vision. Now, this is something I saw from scouts that they said he had tunnel vision. I don't know if I would 100% go with that. That's what they said. And they just say he's specifically a pass rusher, or not just specifically a pass rusher, but I look at him as the really good pass rusher from the defensive tackle position. Let me touch on that a little bit more once I get into this film. So let's start on the film here. Now, the offensive line definitely focuses on him, just like Derrick Brown. That's something that's awesome, okay? You see the offensive line put a lot of focus on where's Javon Kinlaw, whether it's throwing a double team, getting it out of their hands, running it the opposite way, changing the play to get away from him. They're always focused on where's Kinlaw. They're calling out before the snap, hey, Kinlaw's there. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy because he's a defensive lineman. Now, the inside bull rush is something I was talking about before. It's insane, dude. I mean, when he wins that lower leverage, he is running people over. He is so strong upper body, and that, it's scary. It's scary for offensive linemen. Next up is he continues to play. Now, one thing I didn't see with Derrick Brown, like I talked about before, is that once the play gets by him, I see sometimes he kind of just, he's just chilling, kind of walking. He's throwing a little bit. Eating a lollipop. I don't know. No, he's just walking. But then other times I'm seeing Javon Kinlaw and he's not even in the play anymore. And you just see him, he's just getting it. It's like, dude, where are you running to? I don't know. But he's still chasing the play. So yes, maybe that's why he's a little bit more burnt out. Maybe Derrick Brown is better with, conserving that energy in a smarter way. But I do see Javon Kinlaw with that motor, man. He is just going. He's like, okay, I'm going to start chasing him. You're not going to catch him, but he's chasing. You never know. Maybe you could catch him and it could save a very big play. So that could be very important. He played less on the outside than Derrick Brown. And that's what really surprised me. I thought Derrick Brown was just a defensive tackle and just completely on the inside. He didn't go to the outside. He goes to the outside, and he actually did it more from what I could tell. I don't have a stat to back that up, but from what at least I saw in the film, he does it more than what Javon Kinlaw does. Kinlaw's more of an inside type of guy from what I've seen, but maybe that's not true based on numbers. I don't know exactly. Next up is bull rush and his pass rush. He's a big playmaker. He's a pass rusher. I look at him as a defensive tackle that can pass rush, maybe one of the best in the draft coming out. Okay, he's not the best run stopper, but he is a great pass rusher. If you want a guy that's similar to, dare I say, Chris Jones. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be Chris Jones when he comes into the league. That's wild to say. That's dumb. But I will say this. If you're looking at the highest point, his highest ceiling, I really do feel like it kind of reminds me of a Chris Jones, because Chris Jones is one of those defensive linemen that are known to get a lot of pressure, and you don't think about that from the defensive tackle. He gets a lot of pressure, and that's what sets him apart from a lot of guys. Not the best run stopper, so that's something that some teams don't love, but he's not bad at it. I'm not saying he's bad at it. He's just not Derrick Brown level. But at the same time, he does get a lot of pressure, and he gets a lot more pressure than a lot of defensive linemen do. So that's super important. Now, one thing I think is huge here is he has a lot of confidence, obviously. He talked about that he could be better than Aaron Donald if he is drafted. So, hey, confidence is good, or maybe he's just trying to get drafted higher. But here's one thing that I think is super interesting as we kind of wrap this thing up. The Senior Bowl. Javon Kinlaw was in the Senior Bowl. Derrick Brown was not. And since Javon Kinlaw was in the Senior Bowl, Matt Patricia got a close-up look, and we know when San Francisco had the Senior Bowl and their coaches had it, they took two players that they practiced with in the Senior Bowl. Matt Patricia is getting to work up close with them, and Javon Kinlaw balled out in the Senior Bowl through practices, and apparently he was making a really good name for himself, maybe one of the best Senior Bowl participants. And when Matt Patricia gets to see that face-to-face, it's a lot different than watching film. He's watching that in person. He's right up next to him and close to him. He can learn about him, and if he likes the personality, I think that's why this is a really interesting option for the Detroit Lions, because he was in the Senior Bowl. Now, let's compare these two guys. Let's get to my conclusion, and we'll get to a little rating system. If I would say which guy gets more pressure, I would say Javon Kinlaw. If you're looking at specifically pass pressure, Javon Kinlaw. That doesn't mean Derrick Brown doesn't get it. I mean, he gets a lot of pressure. For a defensive tackle, he gets a lot of pressure. Not Kinlaw level, though. I mean, Javon Kinlaw had 6 sacks in a season from his position. Yeah, he just gets a lot of pressure. You can just watch him. And now, if we're going for run, Derrick Brown is a way better run stopper. Javon Kinlaw is not bad by any mean, but Derrick Brown is a really, really good run stopper. I mean, if you want a run stopper, the Lions need a run stopper, Derrick Brown is that guy. They both have great impact on the field. They're both very athletic. I was surprised by both of them. And their versatility is there. Derrick Brown's versatility just kind of pops out to me, because I'm like, I was not expecting him to play on the end, and he was. So I guess that's kind of a little bit why I'm leaning towards that side. But now my conclusion is this. Both of these guys could be great draft picks for the Detroit Lions. The fact that Javon Kinlaw was in a Senior Bowl could potentially mean that that's the guy we take instead, just because he had a face-to-face and he was up close. He was one-on-one with him. And I think that could have a way bigger impact. I would have no problem with Matt Patricia drafting a guy because of that, because if he likes him there, then why not take him? Now, I feel like Kinlaw is more of an option for a trade back. I wouldn't take him at 3. I think that's too early. I don't think that would make any sense. I could see trading back and taking Kinlaw, and then I'd be all in for it. Now, how far trading back is the question. If you're trading back to 5, you may be reaching here. You may be reaching because you're going to have a lot of talent like Simmons, Okuda, Brown. At least one of those guys are probably going to be available. So I think you're really reaching if you go back to 5 and take Kinlaw. Now, if you go back to somewhere around 10, now taking Kinlaw anywhere in the top half after 5, I'm okay with taking Javon Kinlaw because I think, he's going to fall a little bit. There's no reason to take him at 3. That's just too early. Now, on the other hand, Derrick Brown, I really do believe if you took Derrick Brown at 3, it wouldn't be a bad pick. Now, trading back to get him is obviously better. If you trade back to 5 with Dolphins and you take him, I'm loving it. But if you take him at 3, I'm not mad about it because Derrick Brown is a more polished player. He has everything you could ask for in a defensive tackle. And as defensive tackle is, in my opinion, the Lions' biggest need, adding a defensive tackle that is polished, that has their game finished, and they can do everything well. They can get pressure. They can stop the run. They're known as the black hole. I mean, he has a great energy. He's a healthy player. All of those things make up a polished player, and a reason that taking him at 3 would not be a stretch. Same thing with Kinlaw, though. Not the best run stopper. He does have a few things to work on, but otherwise, he's got such a high ceiling. He may even have a higher ceiling than Derrick Brown, just because we haven't seen him polished yet. I'm not saying Derrick Brown is polished. I'm not saying he's perfect, because he's going to be a rookie, dude. This dude's like 20 years old. Obviously, he's going to improve and get a lot better. But I almost feel like Javon Kinlaw is just not at the same level. I keep using polished-wise as Derrick Brown. But when he does get there, he's going to be ridiculous because he can get so much pressure, and he's going to be different. He's going to remind me a lot like Chris Jones at the high end. So I don't think you can go wrong either way, but I do think drafting Javon Kinlaw would mean necessarily trading back for sure. Derrick Brown, 5 and in, I'm okay with it. So there you go. The winner here is Derrick Brown because he's more polished. But let's be honest here. If you're getting Javon Kinlaw after 10, I think that team is also a winner. So there you go. Both of these guys are extremely talented. It's kind of just whatever you need. If you need defensive line pressure and you're not getting pressure from the defensive line and you're not really worried about stopping the run because you're already good at that, then Javon Kinlaw makes a lot of sense. If you're like us and you just need help overall in the defensive tackle position, I think Derrick Brown makes a lot more sense. But trading back, taking Kinlaw, there's nothing wrong with that either. That would be beautiful. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Who are you taking and where? Thank you for watching, and I'm out.